again, on its 7th edition, there's so much to pull from if you want to play the Call of Cthulhu RPG that you've got 40 years, 50 years of...
And there's also 10 different genres within the game that you can choose from if you don't want the 1920s. I think 20s is cool.
And that's something to note. It is primarily set in the 1920s, but can range from ancient past, modern, into the future, and anywhere in between. There, I saw there was a cyber pulp.
For those of you who never played it before, tip: Tommy guns do no damage to monsters. Although you would hope that they do, they don't.
Yeah, for those of you used to D&D and some of the other RPGs, plus the things we've talked about in the multiverse, or they've talked about in the multiverse, because I've been busy. This is not a game about combat. As a matter of fact, you want to stay out of combat as much as possible, and they'll explain why. But to give you an idea of what combat is like, you, as an investigator, you are in a perfect setting in a forest. It's a beautiful summer evening. You try to sleep outside under the stars with nothing but a blanket and a pillow. It's gorgeous. The campfire light's gone out, and you're attacked by 2 grizzly bears. That's the chance you have if you go into combat with anything. So
the pulp versions are a little more combat, you know, that pulp comic book sort of hero, but for the most part, it's still quite deadly. And meant to be your last resort. Some of the things here, eras of play. We've got Cthulhu by Gaslight, which would roll us back to the 1890s Victorian era. I've got Cthulhu Now, which is the modern day. And then the Pulp Cthulhu, which is another series of publications here. 1930s, so it's just slightly forward. But this would be more where you're going to find some of that Indiana Jones style, that the Germany collecting artifacts, the Hellboy sort of stuff that we've seen. It's going to be more of your pulp style Cthulhu.
I remember seeing Hellboy, the first movie, and I'm like, I don't see him.
He needs to be in there.
He's around here somewhere.
Yeah, you start opening portals and people are like, hey, what's out there?
Cthulhu Dark Ages was released in 2004. So they got Dark Ages. There's so many others. Atomic Age was released in 2013. There's roughly 10, like I say, different genres that were released in different periods.
For those of you who aren't super familiar with the works of H.P. Lovecraft, there is a ton of different books, short stories, and of course inspired works. One of the probably the most accessible now is Welcome to Night Vale. It's got a lot of that Lovecraftian bent to it. It's a lot of fun. And is actually going to be receiving its own role-playing game published by Renegade Studios using the Essence 20 system. Troy, we covered that one earlier. They've got G.I. Joe and what else?
It's G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, Transformers, My Little Pony.
And they all use Essence 20, so now we can take Eldritch horror, My Little Pony, find it with some, it's all going to be bad. I don't think the Megazord does much to Cthulhu.
I don't know about you guys, but that just has a tequila night written all over it. You know?
For sure. So there's a lot of ways to access things around this sphere. The Call of Cthulhu, though, is the original and is going to be it draws directly from Lovecraft's works.
I don't think anybody wrote horror before him, really. I mean, his first story came out in 1920.
You might consider,
or was it earlier than that?
No, let's see. We'll have to bring that up. Let's see. So so Howard Phillips Lovecraft, 1890 to 1937, American writer, best known for his works of horror fiction. He pioneered the subgenre of cosmic horror. So not that he was a pioneer in horror, but
the only other horror stories out that early were Mary Shelley trying to write Frankenstein. And then what's his name that did a vampire?
Nosferatu.
No, Nosferatu. That's 1920s.
Right. Well, we had horror stuff before that, but we'd be like Grimm's fairy tales, folklore.
Well, the true Grimm's fairy tales are pretty brutal.
Right. So the idea of horror, of course, has been around with humanity forever, but particularly the cosmic horror was his thing. When we start to deal with unknowable, mind-altering realities that, if you know the truth,
If you take H.P. Lovecraft, Nosferatu coming out, we got other vampires, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and all this stuff in the 1920s.
This was the heyday of it. I mean, I believe his first short story. Sorry.
I think you had two kinds of people running around in the 20s. You had those that just wanted to drink and dance, and then other people just running around like the early goths.
Well, that's
persecuting the drinks and dances.
Well, the Flapper era, they had I forget the actress's name, but she was one of the early vamps in her style, and so that all came up around the 1920s. I've got some dates here. Maybe you can back me up on this, Gwydion. Seen around 1927. So The Color of Outer Space, a short story. Dunwich Horror, which is probably one of his most influential, 1929.
There was 14. There was. Don't back him up. There was.
It's a trick.
Fathers. There was 14 movies that were based off Lovecraft's writings directly. There was then 11. There was 11 movies that were inspired. One of them, which. Here, Evil Dead was inspired. There's another.
It's a trick. Get an axe.
There's another 6 TV shows that were inspired by Lovecraft. And
included elements of.
Yeah, included elements. Babylon 5. It shows a couple of episodes in Babylon 5. Yeah. Dark Shadows, one of my favorites growing up. I'm way older than these guys. Night Gallery and The Real Ghostbusters.
I've seen those as reruns, Papa.
If we go back, do you have his publication history?
Well, here's the movies.
Right. Well,
the Dunwich Horror and so on like that. As far as publications, I have to go through.
There's so much information. He's one of the most well-known American authors, and it was a good time, right? We had a lot of documentation, so more than you could want to know is probably available.
If you go to hplovecraft.com, it's an amazing amount of information. They delve deep into him and into his writings and what he did, and what he did for the industry, and what's actually, and myths. There's a lot of myths about him, and they bust those in here.
If you want to do something fun with H.P. Lovecraft, do a little search on YouTube for Murdoch Mysteries. He's a turn-of-the-century detective from Canada. H.P. Lovecraft was on there in one of the murders that happened in there.
Oh yeah,
it was a fun.
There's
a very fun episode.
Before there's like
with the shadows
until the mind player shows up.
Until the mind player. Hey, I want to mention that we do have Mr. Producer here with us, and we actually gave him a mic.
Yay!
It was really hard.
Don't make us regret that decision.
Yeah,
already happened.
Yeah. So because we had read these books, we were able to go and pierce the void where Mr. Producer's voice comes from, and we got him a mic this time. But these books do a really good job. These are the Investigators or Player's Handbook, and then the Keepers or Game Master's Handbooks. There's a ton of lore in here, but if you want to dive deeper and you want to get to the root of things, H.P. Lovecraft and his writings are where this all comes from.
Yeah.
When we talk about the game systems, we talk always about the minimum materials required to play. As a player, you're going to want the Investigator's Handbook. This covers most of the 1920s stuff, does have rules for modern, and covers sort of the general highlights areas of play, the typical ones. There are core rule books for Pulp Cthulhu if you want a more pulpy game. Those are going to be a different set of books. And then the Game Master, of course, will require at least the Keeper's book, if not both books, to make sure that they can guide their players through character creation as well as tell their stories.
There's a 90-page quick start guide that is free online that you can download.
I love this, guys.
3 gens.
It's manufactured or published by Chaosium Incorporated.
Chaosium
so
Incorporated.
You can head over to Chaosium's website and you get there. They've got PDF adventures, quick start guide, official character sheets.
Yeah, they've got pre-gens. They've got pre-gens and an adventure in that quick start guide, and I believe that it's a solo adventure to go through to get used to your character, isn't it?
Yeah. Some things that will introduce sort of the game mechanics and get sort of everybody on the same level playing field before you dive into some of the deeper stuff.
So, Boris, for the minimum of just those 2 books, what would a new player be looking at?
In terms of cost-wise, this was $45.
Okay.
You may find it a little cheaper secondhand. I got these. These were kind of nice because they came plastic wrap. They are full color. These are really nice books. And full color can be a bit of a misnomer because we're talking about 1920. So for the art of the era, we're dealing with like some black and white stuff here.
Full
Black and white.
Technicolor.
But when you get into this, like here's a walkthrough character creation. Mr. Producer will get it right there. So it lays out the character sheet, where to find the rules to fill out that section of the character sheet, and so on. We have had some concerns from some of the people that we know that play this more regularly, where they feel the books can be a little tricky to find the information you're looking for. They have a good glossary or index on the back.
It's nice how they put it together, because they start off on the creating and they go straight into each and every aspect and what dice you roll, because this is a different system. You're dealing with the D100 system in a lot of respects.
Right, or a
you're
percentile.
if you're creating the character, you're dealing sometimes with 2 dice 6 plus 6, which is some of the old ways, 3 dice 6 raw, and so on. But it gives you each one of them, and then gives you an explanation.
Just as another thing here, chaosiuminc.com. I didn't know they had a picture of Gwydion in here, this brain in the jar. We got
That
that.
explains it.
Or was that
That
me?
explains a lot.
No, so
Here I thought it was marbles.
Chaosium also has novels and short stories that they'll publish along this line.
Yeah.
So you can check out quite a lot from them.
Now,
a great
is the novels and such kind of be more like Dragonlance, where you have the box set that you can play through, and then multiple stories that you can read if you wanted to?
Similar to that, yeah. So some of those may be, for example, the big campaign adventure that you can purchase for this is there's one that's a Horror on the Orient Express.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 3-inch book. It's huge.
Yeah.
But it's really, really cool, because it starts you at the start of the train line all the way to the end. So there's a lot of neat stuff. And then we got like a chronology of the Roaring 20s all the way up to and including the stock market crash, 29. So
I highly recommend playing the 20s, because it's just creepier when you're not dealing with modern us that are kind of deadpan to a lot of stuff that's out there and a lot of stuff we've seen.
Yeah, well, we watched all 6 Saw movies in a marathon.
Well, no, to
And
your
read
point, Gwydion,
popcorn.
like if you're in the basement and you discover a horrible monster thing, and I'm up on the 2nd floor and you don't have a cell phone, I have no idea, and that's a little bit scarier for you, because you can't call me for help.
Like,
You're just gonna have to deal with the monster
I
thing
can
in the
yell.
basement. Yeah.
where are the mics set right now?
No.
So our Lord and Destroyers also made an appearance in a movie. It's called Underwater. Came out in 2020. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on, I think it's Netflix. It's called Underwater. Basically, people setting up a underwater laboratory on the bottom of the ocean, and guess who they bump into? It's very cool, I think, because his introduction or his entrance onto stage, so to speak,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a mound there, like, what is that? What is that? Then he starts standing up, and he's huge, and he spreads his wings, and the lady in the underwater suit's looking at him, what's that? And I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be another low-budget movie. I like low-budget movies. And then when Cthulhu made an appearance, I said, oh, I'm watching this one.
My all-time favorite appearance of Cthulhu so far is in South Park.
Yep.
South Park? Yes.
So,
His appearance in South Park is epic.
yeah.
I love little Cartman sitting on his shoulder. Hey, Cthulhu. Those guys.
Yeah. So
Instead of used guys, which is what I'm used to, you know.
Cthulhu's like, no, go over there. Yes, destroy that. Yes, destroy it.
as Goody mentioned, we use a D100 in this system, so you got a 0 to 100% chance to affect your skills, which means you're going to need 2 die 10, which is really nice actually for some of the games that we've seen. We've covered certain games that have like the 2D20 system with an extra set of dice, or certain game systems that have their own custom dice sets.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
Star
with
Wars.
little crazy hieroglyphic pictures. on
Right,
it.
so 2D10, this is easy to pick up just about anywhere.
Yeah.
You can find dice, your local game stores. Pick these up when you pick up the book set, and you'll
Or
be
if
ready
you're
to
a
play.
good dice goblin, you've already got several to choose from.
Yeah, you probably have like 200 of them, you know.
That's a,
And that's just the ones you want to admit to yourself that you have.
That's a low bid.
Number rocks.
Those are just the ones that you haven't found in the dragon.
Yeah,
Lucky
so,
rocks. Lucky rocks.
all right.
A couple of aspects that are interesting about this game is luck and sanity.
Oh, yeah, we'll cover Sanity a little bit deeply. I got a whole thing out of here. But
Sanity and the absence of
There actually
Yeah.
the loss thereof.
the loss.
Yeah,
Yes.
because these are things you can die of. Lose all your luck.
Yeah.
Dead, no saving throw. Lose your sanity, same thing.
Yeah.
We'll detail characters here in a second. I want to make sure we come over this a little bit.
Sure.
Setting stuff, right? So a lot of times we talk about these games, and even with Fallout, the post-apocalyptic nuclear future, we might have real locations, but they're completely different from what we'd experience today.
Yeah.
Not entirely true with this setting. We're going to be in a lot of real-world settings.
Yes.
Even if you've got your lizard people under the mountain kind of things, you're like, well, the mountain is over there. I can find it on a map.
Yeah.
They're
working on Mount Rushmore, and they happen to find
the snake people or what have you. So there are some fictional places from Lovecraft's mythos like Innsmouth, Rioleth, and Kadath, but for the most part, we're going to be in real-world locations. So 1920s Chicago, 1920s Detroit, New York, or if you take a plane trip down to Brazil or whatever, we're going to be dealing with the actual globe in this case, which is a little bit different than what we would see in a lot of the other systems that we've covered. Even ones that are set in real world, they tend to have a real big change to them, so they're not really exactly what we'd expect to find.
So there's a little bit of a chance of not making it across the big waters.
Some Amelia Earhart stuff going on there, but
that had a leak.
No, there's a boat. Yeah, something.
It was a big boat.
They didn't have enough ice on board or something.
Ice maker,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So as we talked about, commonly in the 20s, but you can find other eras at play. One of the things that we get into, though, is we start to add the Cthulhu and we peel back the layers of what we see as reality, as it were. Major factions, this is going to be one we'll talk about a little bit more in depth here. The great old ones, we're not talking about Gwydion.
or warlocks in D&D.
Well, so these would typically be the patrons of those warlocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
why would you do that to yourself?
Because Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Ultimate
power.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the reasons.
So these of course will be the ones that either are undergirding or affecting reality beyond the veil. Then you have their cults. So oftentimes, particularly in the pulp stuff, if you get an Indiana Jones style adventurer, you're probably dealing with a cult that's doing something. That's how you bump up against these people.
Now you're in a game that you are an investigator, so you're going to bump into symbols, this, that, and the other, plus the cults of whoever they're serving, and you're trying to gather information. So
even beyond that, as you start a campaign, you may be living your life as normal until you're approached by someone from the Miskatonic University.
Mm-hmm.
This is researchers and scholars involved in occult investigations.
Okay.
Right, and so Indiana Jones was an average everyday archaeologist, unless he, as he gains renown, maybe there's somebody that needs his skill set or expertise particularly. And guess what? Cthulhu's here now. It wasn't that big a stretch when they had aliens.
Yeah,
which
is a lot different than the Forgotten Realms Adventurers Guild University or FragU. So it's a lot different than.
It's even different than what we'd expect from like a wizard's college or something of that nature. And then of course we always have the fun things like the Illuminati, who are the other guys?
Which were in existence way before.
The Masons. Yeah.
Yep, Freemasons.
So you can have fun with bringing those sorts of things into your game as well. Player factions, of course, investigators, ordinary people facing the unknowable. And then for Pope Cthulhu, players can be more action-oriented characters. And then the thematic elements we touch on a little bit, but what separates horror from cosmic horror? What is the distinction?
Face it, $4.50 on your ticket price.
Pretty much there. The ranking B
instead of 87 octane, you need rocket fuel.
Well,
but cosmic goes to other dimensions,
right?
And that's the basis of it. So you're reaching into the dimensions of the old ones. You're reaching in dimensions that are not the prime material plane that people in the 20s know as Earth. Basically, that's all they know. Yeah. Anything else is read in H.G. Wells and so like this, and it's fantastic. And you can even bring those books in as somebody researching. You can bring those people in if they were alive at the time to talk to. There's a lot of things that the keeper can do to add to the story, and there's a lot of things already done in the ones that are pre-generated.
Yeah.
To go with, but yeah, cosmic horror is just seeing the producer in real life.
Yeah. Well, Troy, where does humanity fall within cosmic horror? Because we're not dealing with just like a monster in the woods, right? Humanity has a particular place when we're talking about cosmic horror, and their place in the structure of things is part of what brings on the horror element.
We're the victim. If you're looking at the universe or the galaxy, humankind, Earth is usually the victim. We find ourselves outgunned, outmatched, uneducated. We don't have the tech. We don't have. How are they doing this to us? I mean, look at go back to Martians from Outer Space invade. What saved us there? Bacteria, because somebody blew their nose. And we were getting our butts kicked left and right. Even Tom Cruise couldn't handle them. And it's like every time we get invaded, we need a hero like, can't remember his name now. Will Smith.
There you go.
Will Smith. He was the hero. He saved the day. He figured out a way to shoot him down.
It was the guy that drank quite a bit but still knew how to fly a plane.
Yes.
So we're
forgive me for not
typically
remembering the actor's name.
we're typically the underdog.
We taste good. Apparently, to everybody in every other galaxy, we taste good.
Well,
because the chicken, I've heard.
I guess.
So, what's that, Mr. Producer?
So, us being the underdog kind of reminded me of another way that I've seen, well, let's say humanity win. The video game Eternal Darkness.
Yes.
You are going up against unknowable horrors, and the only way that you survive this is by summoning a different unknowable horror to beat that one.
Yeah.
only at the end to realize your mistake and have to hastily attempt to save all of reality from this new Eldritch horror that you've summoned into reality.
By summoning a dead god.
Yeah.
We were at the library playing with some kids, and this kid was like 7 or 8, and we gave them what I thought was a doable little thing. They got trapped in a cave by a wolf, and so I was like, okay, we got sharp sticks. A couple of them had some spells, and I got around the table and said, so what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna draw this pentagram on the ground. I'm gonna summon a demon to kill it. I was like, okay.
How did you gain?
So what are you gonna do?
Well, you can try. You're gonna chant for a while and see what happens.
I was like, holy crap! I don't know. What level? Yeah, you're on first level.
That is some of the fun stuff about gaming with kids right now, because I'm a huge fan of anime, and you got a lot of kids that are watching animes out there. And I had one kid in the campaign try to eat everything, like the anime Bo Fury, and gain powers, and there's several others just like it.
Well,
and
with
that kid, he's like, well, I've seen this, so I'll just do this.
I'm convinced that he had been watching that show.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, particularly with the rise of the isekai in popularity, which is you teleported to some other world.
Oh yeah.
You always end up with some like incredible power or ability that so
everybody's OP.
So that's the heroes that we see often, and so that comes into D&D, and you're like, okay, so he's over there lifting a mountain with his mind powers. He's over there literally punching time. That guy's summoning demons. Like, it's a level 1 goblin. Guys, what are we doing here?
In all of these kind of movies, where humans are involved, and there's some kind of extra dimensional or outwardly another planet creature shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, the first thing we want to do is, wow, you're from where? And then a couple thousand get killed, and then somebody has to stand up and says, guys, we got to do something.
Yeah, like,
it takes us a while to figure out that they're here to eat us, not to help us. And so we're always the underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's how I've heard it explained, and I thought this was right on, right? Imagine an ant. In the ant's perspective of everything, they have no idea about humans.
Nope.
An ant becomes briefly aware of humanity and our existence, what our everyday life is, and everything like that. And then they go back to existing as an ant. That experiences changes them forever. They know a truth no one else can know. They know that they know because they've experienced it. And then they try to convince everyone else around them. And the question is he insane, or is he more sane than everyone else?
Yeah.
Well, that all depends on when the mean kid with the magnifying glass shows up and proves it right.
So,
there's another meme that's a lot like that I kind of like a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
So you go fishing,
Mm-hmm.
you catch a fish.
Oh yes.
You pull it out of the water. You show it off to everybody. Oh, he's not big enough. So you take the hook out of his mouth and throw him back in the water. That fish goes over to his friends and says, "You're not gonna believe what just happened to me."
I was abducted by aliens.
Okay, Bob. Yeah, you're a little crazy. You know.
Yeah.
There's not
Look at his
aliens
hole,
out
look at
there
his
waiting
hole.
to snag us by a hook. And you go, "Oh, look at that bait. Look at that worm over there."
But just again, it's the themes, right? So there's always everything that's out there is so vast, so powerful, so by its nature unknowable.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the other themes, exploration. What can we learn about that without totally destroying our grip on what is objective reality? And then the other thing, isolation. To Troy's point, there's always that sense of, well, there's nothing can be done about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're so tiny in the grand scheme of things, like the ant.
Yeah.
That there's nothing to be done about it. And then finally, the existential dread of it's coming to get us. and again, there's nothing that can be done about it.
Try and tell everybody, and they're like, "What? I got a volleyball game tomorrow."
Right. Like, Susan's having cocktails at 9. Are you coming or what? Like, but you guys don't get it.
The Chiefs are playing.
Have you guys seen the movie Don't Look Up?
No.
No.
So.
Is that the old school black and white? Because there's one.
It's just like a year or two old.
Okay.
But there's an asteroid coming to Earth,
and
this like college project spots it on their telescope, and they tell NASA and United Nations, a few other places, and they're like, "Nah." And they finally convince people it's coming and it's going to hit and it's going to destroy the planet. And like until like the week before, nobody believes them. They don't want to tell anybody. The government's like, "Okay, you got to be quiet. It's going to make a panic. Things are going to be crazy." And it's a really good look at what if something like that were to happen. And mankind is about to be wiped off the, asteroid, UFOs, whatever.
Right.
And you have that huge question. We're not alone, and we're about to eat the bullet.
Well, from a psychological standpoint, this is one of the things I think that makes Lovecraft's writing so good as he explores these psyches.
Yeah.
Is no one wants to suspend disbelief in their own reality. Even when faced with the existential destruction, impending asteroid, I'm not going to suspend my disbelief in my comfortable reality to then try to believe that it's about to be obliterated by this asteroid.
And as you come across these facts and you discover things like that, now you're rolling against said sanity, of how you handle it. And if you can go to other people and talk about it, now how are they going to handle it, and how are they going to look at you?
Well,
so there's in one of his books, The Mouth of Madness, follows this just perfectly, right? The guy learns these unknowable truths, tries to get people to help him defeat the undefeatable, and in all of this, people just think that he's a raving mad lunatic, and the book ends with him in an insane asylum. Yeah. Basically saying, I knew this was going to happen, and we're all going to die anyway.
Yeah. So, lastly here, before we dive into characters, because I'm with you, I want to talk about Sanity. It's a cool feature of the system. Troy, magic versus technology.
Well, that's very interesting.
It's a lot different than what we've seen in others.
It's a lot different than what we've seen, because this is one of
That's a new word, very a lot.
It's very a lot.
Very a lot.
It's very a lot, because it means...
Use that at home.
It means much.
Muchly?
Much.
It's muchly.
So, there are times, based on what creatures you're encountering, that magic may be an aspect, a contributing factor.
So some
but
of the
technology, because it's from the 1920s, is very... Well, it's 1920s.
Yeah, cars, boats, planes, radio, television. Tommy guns.
Tommy guns are awesome.
But then also, the real existence...
80 megabytes was on a metal disc like this.
Yeah. But at the same time, we also have curses are real. Summoning of things is real.
Like magical effects of creatures. Not necessarily that they're casting fireball and lightning at you or whatever, but there are
Which is the disappointment?
No, in this game, you would pray for a fireball. To
Oh yeah,
put me on my misery.
Call lightning.
Yeah, yes. Oh, okay, I'm done with this one.
Kill me now.
But there are magical effects of creatures, and they have not really spells, but a lot of the creatures have things that they can just do to you.
Yeah.
We would see this more along the lines of what would be considered sorcery or witchcraft.
Yes.
From like an 1800s or earlier kind of perspective. Magic in the system is described as a corrupting and dangerous, drawn from forbidden knowledge, and unlike traditional fantasy magic in Call of Cthulhu, often costs sanity or has horrifying consequences, such as withering or corrupting or rotting, any sort of things like that. But
we got a question in the comments here.
Yes.
Would Stranger Things be considered Lovecraftian?
I think it's got Lovecraftian elements. Definitely.
Yeah, other
it's
dimensions,
interesting because
crazy smoke monsters.
For sure, because we start with a sci-fi, right, and then we do go into other dimensions, things. So
I'm looking on the official list.
Oh, he's got the official list. I was going to hold the official list, Mr. Green there. Yeah. I would say probably yes. For sure. It's even though you're dealing with everything like on a sci-fi level from the storytelling perspective.
From the content level,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and then season one is one of my favorites because each story is told from a different perspective. And if you're familiar with the '80s stuff, like the kids' side of the story is very much Goonies.
Yeah.
But the mom side of the story, her son goes missing, is Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And so we've got these different sort of perspectives on it, and you're like, and they, particularly through the first season, as the problem unfolds. You have these different perspectives that are really well done. And
it's like the way Piers Anthony changed his writings after the first couple of books in, I think, the fourth or fifth. He changed the way he wrote The Magic of Xanth, and he started doing chapters on one person's perspective. And by the time you got to the end of the book, you had the entire story and the entire scene developed, and you saw how the ending came about. Otherwise, if you just done it from one perspective, it didn't really make sense.
It wouldn't have had the same impact.
No, absolutely not.
If my nerd read languages skill is still working, I think this says Street Racer. So thanks, Street Racer, for the question. Keep them coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
you've made 2 comments. Third comment, we get the pick.
I get a free T-shirt, which doesn't mean anything because I don't have a body.
Yeah. So let's now switch into characters, because this is how we're going to interact with the game. We've told you what the setting is, what the elements of the setting are that we can expect, but now you have to be able to play the game. So we're going to have to do that through our characters. Yes. So again, we're dealing with a percentile-based system where you roll 2 10-sided dice, and there's a 1 for a tens place and 1 for the 10. And there's also percentile dice, you guys out there. So it'll look like 20, 30, 40, 50. So that's your main, and then you've got the single. As an example, I got 70 and an 8. That's 78 is my roll there. I probably actually failed.
78%
in this game, you need to roll under. Actually, you didn't, because its strength is 80.
Oh, yeah!
So in this game, you need to roll under your attribute score, and it depends on a difficulty. So I'm going to let you get into that.
Well, a little bit here.
We haven't even
just from the base character, we've got
rolling.
Well, here we got. You're going to have strength, dex, intelligence, constitution, and then power, which represents your mental fortitude, appearance, education, and then a size.
Appearance?
Oh, yes. But this can be so aside from being as pretty as Gwydion, this could be affected later on if you do begin to deal with magic or the effects of cursed items, and you start to age, or you get scales, or you change colors.
Male and female characters can make a difference in here, as well as far as how far they get in investigations and how they can influence, or their actual charisma and how pretty they are, and so like that works a lot, since it's a male society. And in the 20s, you have to understand there's a lot of prejudices going on. There's a lot of stupid stuff happening. But that's the era, so you run with it.
What I did appreciate was that they didn't hide from the fact that the 1920s had a different social structure than what we have today. But they also use, what was it? I completely lost it. But the ladies do have certain advantages in that society.
Yeah.
It is what it comes down to. So, we always see the trope of a lady will pull a cigarette and then the gentleman will light it.
Yeah.
That was just the way of the higher society.
Yeah.
And so, particularly as a lady, you have certain advantages and if you make use of them.
Investigator.
But you will also have certain restrictions placed on you because of social pressures.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that you, like the ladies at the time, you may have to have certain criticism.
Yeah.
And that will come probably from your NPCs. It just depends on how true to the era your game master or keeper plays the game.
Yeah. If there's glass ceilings or if they can be broke through, and that's the kind of fun part, is actually allowing things to be broke, glass ceilings being able to be broke through and so on.
So another TV show that I'll recommend is called Franny Drescher. She's a 1920s detective, and I like the show because it is very 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from clothes, music, everything that you're talking about, her house, furniture. It's all it's all 1920s. So if you just want to see something that shows the 1920s was like, Franny Drescher, Lady Detective.
Yeah. So I just talked a little bit about character stats or abilities, and then from the skills side of things, you have skills like library use.
Librarian.
Library use.
Yeah, it's library use.
Don't you know what the doing decimal system is?
Right. Then you've got spot hidden, occult, and then particularly Cthulhu Mythos. You also have non-combat skills such as persuade, psychology, drive, those sorts of things.
Those were great on monsters.
Well, for sure. But everything, even the stats is based on the 2d10 or the d100 scale.
Now, tell me something, because it shows intimidate 15%. Does that add 15% to whatever you roll here?
Well,
that I'm not entirely sure because you got a pre-generated character. I didn't get a chance
I got a pre-gen.
Well, because he's also got modifiers based on certain things here.
On photography and so on.
I think everything's going to be...
it's all intertwined.
Depending on the situation, there could be modifiers, both positive and negative.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, your target number is going to be this. You got a modifier.
Mm-hmm.
And you have positive, negative modifier, and then you have your modifier for your actual skill.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of math.
And again, once you have these numbers, it depends on how difficult the task is that you're going after. You could have a raw roll against your base number. It could be more difficult, which, how do they call it? There's 3 different difficulty.
They've got a special way to say it, but it basically, because they call it halves and fifths.
Yeah, halves and fifths.
Is the terminology they use for it. And so there's a chart for it. If your base score, for example, was 100, your half is 50, which would represent a more difficult than normal challenge.
Yep.
And then your fifths would be 20.
Yeah.
And again, you have to roll lower than these levels. And so that would represent a much more difficult scenario. It could be, not just picking a lock, but picking a lock upside down while suspended over the lava pit at the volcano.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of the handcuffs and straitjacket while you're in a tank full of water.
Yeah, Houdini.
With
piranha. Ooh, they bite. So I understand it. But so they'll have that on the character sheet and stuff. You have your base skill, then your halves and fifths, and it's there for quick reference. So you're not always having to try to do the math on the fly. You can just get the difficulty or make.
There's also PDFs online that you can put your character in. It's kind of like D20 and D&D Beyond and some of these other places where you can put these numbers in and it does the calculations out for you and fills things in down below to where it has your magic, fills in the other stuff. It makes it a lot easier. You'll get used to how it works, but when you're first playing, it's a lot easier to use their calculators.
Yep. So the primary method of character advancement in Call of Cthulhu is through using and successfully applying your skills. Not that you're going to get XP and you're not going to become a level 20 investigator, but it's how you apply your skills and advance them that makes the difference in the gameplay. Advancing skills is kind of interesting because it's the one time that you actually would roll above your skill.
Yeah.
We got
regular, hard, and extreme.
Oh, regular. Okay.
That's the 3 difficulty levels.
I
knew it was in there somewhere. I've read it before. I just didn't remember.
I don't know, the terminology for halves and fifths is the one that stuck with me.
That's the extreme. Yeah, that's the 1/5 skill value.
So, every time a character succeeds in using a skill, i.e. rolling equal to or below their skill percentage, the player would mark next to that skill on their character sheet. And this represents the character learning and becoming more proficient in that area through expertise or experience. At the end of a scenario or session, and this is determined by the keeper, the player gets the opportunity to make an improvement roll for each skill they successfully used during that time. So this isn't every skill on your character sheet. If
it's the ones you use.
Yeah, so if I was, if you did photography, or I applied psychology, or Troy was over there with intimidate with his Tommy gun, yeah.
No, if you're fighting unknowable creatures, you need to use the Lord's Caliber, 45 ACP.
That's right. Tommy guns, I think. Anyway, but so you would mark that you had a success in using that skill during the game session, and then to advance it during that time where the keeper would allow advancement for the skills, you actually have to roll above your skill base. So if Gwydion was doing a lot of strength-based stuff and his character had an 80, he'd have to roll an 80 or above to improve his
72. Yeah, that'd be a no.
Which represents that as you get more proficient in a skill, there's less and less that you can learn that's new to you.
We declined to acquiesce to your request.
That means no. So,
let's see.
It's like gaining a master's, and then going beyond that. It's like, well, I already know that. Thanks, guys.
If the roll is successful, the skill increases by 1d10. So you'd roll that, and you're like, oh, I got 5 more points, which is pretty solid.
That is.
Failure, if the roll equal to or below the current skill, the skill does not increase. However, the player may still benefit from other improvements during play. And that's your overall on the skills. Learning new skills, characters can also learn skills they don't currently possess. You have to spend time and resources on training or studying. And hopefully your library use is decent.
One of the guys you're with that you're doing investigating on dies, you pick up his camera, you're about to learn a new skill.
Mm-hmm.
So, without having to pay for the equipment.
And just a quick note, Troy, you've got a bit of a background in photography. Some of the development techniques that were done in the 50s were quite interesting. We're using silver nitrate and different plate techniques and things.
Yeah, there's a lot of plate techniques. There's a guy called Ansel Adams.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody out there likes photography, I suggest you look him up. Because it was part of my college level classes. We recreated his camera and his darkroom technique.
Wow.
Nice. And it was a lot of work, but you learn a little bit of chemistry, and you learn a little bit about how to build stuff out of wood and glass. So you learn a lot of different things in just building the camera from scratch.
Well, I wanted to mention it particularly because we see the camera, whether it's film cameras or video cameras, currently used in any kind of investigation, Bigfoot, hauntings, those sorts of things. And so photography at the very least would be a big skill, but any of that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, even all the way down to your day-to-day CSI stuff.
Right.
Snapping pictures of everything.
Well, as Troy mentioned.
But one of the things that the old chemical processes could do that digital cameras have difficulty with, the chemicals are more sensitive to a lot of more of the spectrum of light.
So the UV, X-ray, or infrared.
X-ray, IR.
Yeah.
Because the chemical responds differently. So it was real easy to fake a ghost picture because it was a different spectrum of light and it shows up different. It doesn't show up as a solid image. It looked ghost-like.
That's what the Ghostbusters did to find Vigo.
Yeah.
So,
longer exposures, shorter exposures, double and triple and quadruple exposures on the same frame, in the same or even different formats.
One of the things that I did in class, because I had a couple students like, it's impossible to build a camera, I'd have to go buy one. I was like, no, here's a box of 4x5 film camera or film 4x5
slides,
film. And we built cameras out of shoe boxes and oatmeal boxes, and just to show them how to do that. But you have to. There's a lot of math you have to understand because the way lenses work, and there's just a whole number of things. So the fact that you're going to take photography as a skill, there's a lot involved in it because I did weddings and senior portraits, and I started in high school and I went to college level, and I was a lab assistant at the college level. and I had a lot of fun. But recreating Ansel Adams' equipment was the most fun I had.
That's cool.
I wanted to have you talk a little bit about that to highlight that. While we may have a single entry on a character sheet, it can go beyond just taking a picture. There's what is around or involved with, yes, I can operate a steam engine, but do you understand like what makes a steam engine work and those sorts of things? Even me as a technician, where I fix cars all the time.
Well, you get steam. Well, how do you get steam? Well, you have water and you have fire.
A boiler, pressure. But
it makes pressure.
So there's, I don't just understand how to put new brake pads on a car. I understand how a braking system works. We actually deal with the principles of conservation of energy and all sorts of weird stuff. But again, when your characters have more depth than just a line item on your character sheet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what I like.
You know how to do anything.
He licks things really well. He is a professional window licker.
He has a skill.
With the TS, I'll have to kill you after I tell you. And our entire audience. So, Video Security Corporation. That's what I had and dealt with.
He takes pictures of you in the dark.
Yeah. Dealt
and then gives them to the government.
Federal agencies, all the armed forces, so on like that. So me and Video are very good friends. And when he's talking about cameras, the first thing that came to mind was when we spent over $1 billion to send a camera technician up to back focus the Hubble camera.
Yeah.
Because they focused it on Earth, and what's Earth surrounded by? This layer of water.
Yeah.
That's called an atmosphere.
Yep.
That's a lens when you look through it. So they were looking through a conical lens. As they focus, they send it up there. What's fuzzy? What's wrong? So they actually had to train a camera technician as an astronaut, send him up there to back focus the camera. So anyway.
Good times.
Good times.
So,
I remember in one of my photo classes trying to teach the teacher how the lenses on a reflective telescope work.
Uh-huh.
And we got into an argument because he's like, no, it has to do this. No. And I'm like, no, it does this, and it reflects back to the... And he's like, you know what you're talking about. So he went on with his discussion. I went and got the book and set it down in front of him in the middle of his lecture, and he got mad.
So on the thing of telescopes, one of the coolest things I've ever seen as part of a telescope's physical build is a rotating pool of mercury.
Yeah, for the mirror?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super pure mercury. It's about 6 feet across, and they put it on this and the slow rotation causes it to want to go out. Yeah. But it makes it a lens. It's so cool. That's one of those deep space telescopes. But we want to talk now a little bit about the things that we've alluded to the whole time: sanity and mental health for our characters.
Well,
I can do this.
No, I have none of that to
Yes,
discuss.
I can. You guys shut up in there.
Just remember that according to the mental health of the time, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. And to take your mercury every day, kids.
That's right. Take your mercury every day.
Don't forget your heroin and cocaine, as they were over-the-counter prescriptions.
Well, I have my cocaine in carbonated soda form. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're a Coca-Cola.
So on Murdoch, they had a guy that got poisoned by arsenic.
Yeah.
And they gave him an injection of mercury to
Yeah,
get him past it. Yeah. And I was like, what? Strange thing, though. It worked.
Yeah.
I think it was in the script, though.
It's totally in the script, folks. Don't try these at home.
4,000 cc's of mercury? Are you kidding me? Anyway, it's a liquid metal.
Oh, it was only about that much, but I was like...
No, yeah. What's next? Suck on this lead pipe. It tastes good?
Well, it's really the paint that's on the pipe that tastes good.
Yeah.
So here we go. Advancement in Call of Cthulhu isn't only about getting new skills. A key aspect of character development is how they cope with the horrors they encounter.
Oh.
So try to give you some more details there. Tell us a little bit about sanity loss, and things of that nature.
Sanity. How sanity loss works. Well, you roll against your sanity. Whenever a character faces a shocking or disturbing event,
you're related to Gwydion.
No.
They must make a sanity check by rolling percentile dice. But the goal is to roll below the character's current sanity score. So where's that on the character sheet?
Why not?
If the roll is successful,
right here.
They lose a small amount of their sanity, usually specified by 1 die 4 or 1 die 6.
Right, so
if they fail the roll, over their sanity score, they lose more sanity.
I'm not seeing max sanity on any of the previous.
Okay, anybody knows what happens when you lose your sanity?
You die.
You wind up in a rubber room forever.
Well, so here's some of the things that are like right on the character sheet, everybody. You have max sanity, which is your maximum. Then you can have effects such as temporary insanity. You can have an indefinite insanity. It's just there until it decides to leave. It's like when your mother-in-law visits or something.
Well, there's indefinite. So
I thought that was a poltergeist.
temporary insanity. If a character loses 5 or more points in a single event, they must make an intelligence roll. Ironically, failing this roll is beneficial, as it means the character cannot fully comprehend the horror they've just witnessed. If they succeed, meaning they understand the gravity of the effect of what they've seen, then they will suffer the temporary insanity. Hold on, it gets much better.
Oh, it gets better.
The effects of temporary sanity. The character might experience short-term mental breakdowns, such as, but not including,
and up to and including
paranoia, hallucinations, panic, catatonia. That's where you just sit in the corner and drool for the rest of the day. This typically lasts for several in-game minutes to hours. So we'll sit in the corner. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Indefinite insanity. Character loses a total of 20% of their starting sanity points. Within a short period, 2 days or less in game, they may develop indefinite insanity. This represents a more lasting mental disorder, such as severe phobias, obsessive behaviors, or delusions. This type of insanity can last for months or game years.
Nice.
Permanent insanity.
That's
If
my
the character's
favorite.
sanity drops to 0, they are rendered permanently insane. This typically marks the end of the character's ability to continue as a functioning investigator. They might be institutionalized, they could become a danger to others, but they definitely lose the grip of reality entirely.
Which means the keeper gets to use them and the player has to roll another character.
I'm Batman.
I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Yeah. I've seen that.
So, as an example, you've got a sanity score of 60, and then I can't read that. This didn't print out entirely clear, but what's that number next to it?
Troy something. Can't tell.
Troy.
Did not.
If there's another kind of color sheet
Oh,
in
find
here,
it.
someone might be able to.
Okay. So you lost your sanity, back there somewhere.
I'm feeling much better now.
While sanity loss is frequent,
Hell yes!
Wow.
Woo!
characters can regain their sanity over time, though it is difficult, often slower at the rate at which it is lost. Some methods include, now write these down, boys and girls, you will need this, rest and recuperation. Or number 2, achieving a personal goal. Completing personal milestones or resolving major story arcs can reward characters with sanity recovery. You did a good job. We're going to let you have all your brain back.
Can't I just cope with a chocolate milkshake?
It's a
Here we go. Remember I said
Yeah, eat your
anime
feelings, Mr.
cats
Producer.
do not
There's-
count.
there's magical effects. So magic and rituals. In rare cases, mythos magic might allow, what was that word? Might allow sanity recovery, but such methods are, get this, risky and could result in more sanity loss.
Woo! Double-edged sword, everybody.
Yep.
Some of the other ones that we saw, like therapy. So that's always fun. Yeah, like sorry guys, I can't go
Depends on who
to
you
the
get.
haunted house this week. I got to see my therapist.
No,
You know.
I remember, I'll say, I played this once, it was years ago, and I remember this being a huge issue because there was 4 or 5 of us when we got in the house and then shit started happening, and like 2 guys immediately, they're like, sanity check this, sanity check that, and then they got killed in a horrible, explosive manner by something. And then the rest of us were like, what the hell just happened? And I'm using my Tommy gun, which had no effect on the monsters, and the other 2 guys got killed, and I just ran out of the house, and I'm still running.
What was that movie with the cop that was hunting the alien and he was going crazy because he was awake for days on end and his partner died?
Oh, Split Second
Yeah.
Yeah.
with Rucker Howard. Love that guy.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie.
That to me is like the quintessential investigators hunting the Eldritch horror.
Oh,
Those two guys.
They knew things no one else could know.
Yeah.
No one believed them.
It had attacked him. It had its DNA, so they were mentally linked.
Yeah.
So whatever the monster was doing, he saw it and he knew what was happening when it was killing somebody else. That could be very disturbing. That alone would keep anybody awake and sanity check every freaking day.
Yeah.
But then the copious amounts of coffee and chocolate donuts.
Yeah.
Caffeine
I
and
love
sugar.
cop and donut jokes, having been one. So.
Well, he's just trying to
What,
stay
a
awake so
donut?
he doesn't have the horrible nightmare
Yes, I
dreams.
do. I'm not even hungry, and
So it's Split Second with Rucker Howard. If you like low budget horror, highly suggested.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, and I love this
I
note
love it
here.
because it takes place in the future, but it was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
The timeline kicks off in 1999. We're like, oh man.
It's the future.
I love it.
I love the timeline. I love the sci-fi movie and real life timeline. You are here. And
Yeah.
It's like,
That was
wow,
yesterday.
that's-
So, we rewatched the first two movies, The Granddaughter, Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so when they go to the future, it's 2015.
yeah.
And they have flying cars.
Yeah, we got gypped.
We got
And
jets.
holograms.
I still want my.
Remember Jaws?
I just want
We
to
don't have jetpacks. I want a jetpack.
Yeah.
Well, we could all be
Yeah.
Mandalorian then.
That's right.
So as I'm looking at here, overcoming or managing these disorders through role playing and therapy may become a major part of character's development.
So role playing again is important in this campaign because that's a lot of what you're doing. You're not doing a lot of combat, so it's not ROLL play in this game. It's ROLE. The role playing is and interactions with each other, interactions with situation, and begging the keeper is all part of the game.
Well, yeah, because you have to remember that you guys are investigators.
Yes.
The one that kind of comes to mind, it's a bit slapstickier. This is, Call of Cthulhu is a bit grittier. But the Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, or the Mummy, or any of that.
Yeah.
Right? Just a couple of dudes, and then suddenly they're faced with, and being chased by,
Yes.
and is it in that one, Troy, that they've got all of the monsters, all the major actors?
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Abbott and Costello made Frankenstein.
It is the Frankenstein, it's not the Mummy.
Bela Lugosi as vampire. Boris Karloff is the monster. Lon Chaney Jr. is the monster. Boris Karloff is the mummy, and it makes an appearance by Vincent Price as the Invisible Man. So it has all the big name actors in one movie.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they got big name actors to be in just a little
Abbott
Costello.
Yeah.
But it's
But
part
they
of the
were big back then.
Oh.
I mean, they were big names.
Yeah.
It wasn't a little thing. That
No.
was not a B movie back
part of
then.
the reason I mentioned it is it's era particular.
It
Yeah.
is.
So that could be something that your characters could run up against, or it's hey,
Or
that's
they go to the movie and they see that and they get a hint. or
that's
a
not
clue.
real.
They're
That's not how mummies are.
We didn't look for this.
I call bullcrap. Garlic didn't do anything to that vampire last week. They get kicked out for
Oh,
heckling.
the wolfman that tried to eat me was way taller.
Yeah. Is that a chupacabra?
What about luck? Where does that come in?
Vegas.
Yeah, I think.
Boy, ain't that-
Or
not anymore. Not anymore with all electronics.
Yeah, or not.
One of the things that I thought was hilarious is they also have in here.
Laserized card shuffle. No more luck.
You've got your credit rating.
That also affects sanity.
So
awesome.
it can, I think so.
Of course it does.
But that's in the Investigator Handbook, page 51. If you guys want to learn about your character's credit rating.
That's
A little bit more insanity.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Because there's a lot to it. Actually, it's one of the central elements of the game you'll be dealing with as a player.
So the sanity mechanic in the Call of Cthulhu is a central element of gameplay, balancing investigation and survival with the sense of mounting dread and mental erosion. As investigators face the incomprehensible horrors of the mythos, their gradual descent into madness provides the core tension in the game, creating a psychological experience unlike any other TTRPG. This mechanic makes players think carefully about the risks they take in pursuit of forbidden knowledge and the lengths that they're willing to go to confront the unknown.
Don't say marriage. Don't say marriage. Don't say marriage. No.
Also affects sanity.
Also affects sanity and your bank account.
So you've got a backstory that you come up
There
with.
we go.
Some of it is rolled. Some of it is chosen. Personal description, ideology and beliefs, significant people.
One of the things that's cool is that
lives.
they have two methods for that section of your character. Is you can do selected generation.
Yep.
Or sort of a guided pre-generated packages.
Yes, they've got packages for which is like the equipment packages that you get in D&D. Meaningful locations, treasured possessions, of course, gears possessions. Then you got, like 5e, you've got traits. I like this, injuries and scars.
Oh, those are going to happen a lot.
Part of you, yeah.
Chick stick scars.
But phobias and manias. These will develop. You may have some beforehand, but they will develop.
Don't worry, you'll get these.
You'll get these later in the game.
Yeah.
So if it's blank right now, it's okay. You'll get some.
If you survive long enough, you get many.
Yes.
Arcane tomes and spells. There's an opportunity for you to gain things, whether or not you're going to be able to utilize them, read them. Your magic's going to be able to do anything with it. If
I like how
have
you
it as
say
part of the
gain
group.
like it's a positive all the time. Like
Okay, maybe
perhaps
not.
acquire or
Acquire's
be
good.
saddled with.
Burdened with.
Oh, yeah.
Burdened with is good.
Um,
Encounters with strange entities. There's 1, 2, 3.5 lines. That needs to be bigger.
that should be a
That
page
needs
and a
to be,
half. Like
at least a whole
because
page.
we got this whole notes section here. Like we need one of those for the strange entity
and
encounters.
I love the wealth. $10 on hand, $40 available in a hurry.
That's actually not bad for 1920.
Yeah.
We can get that.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So some of these, I just want to point out, there's only a couple lines to write stuff because they understand that you're not going to survive much more than that.
That's funny.
Well, some of it, particularly if we start dealing with magic and the gods. I did have a thing here. We'll talk a little bit about character death because it is it's a fact of life in this game.
It's a fact of life.
Yes, but
yes.
Have
And
more than
there
one
are
character rolled up.
there are no death saves.
Yeah, Cthulhu. It's you're born, you live, you go insane, and you die.
Yeah, so it's like version 1 of D&D. It's dead, no saving throw.
Yep.
They don't have places you can take somebody and they miraculously heal and cure you and stuff
No,
like
it
that.
was in 1920.
now check it out.
Yeah,
Even if through the use of magic, a resurrection ritual or something of that nature, in the twisted nature of the mythos, they'd never come back who they were.
Yeah.
It's like Pet Cemetery.
Well, like
Yes,
the Lazarus
and
pit.
then again, so.
Or Aladdin.
Oh.
I can't bring anybody back from the dead. It's creepy. I don't like it. So, yeah.
So while those things may be available in a particular story or setting, don't forget they have a cost.
Yes.
Whether it's on that person or the people around them or any number of ways that you can extract a cost on that. I did not prepare anything for my notes regarding luck. I did see where it's a derived stat back here, but
I didn't have that here. I apologize.
Sanity points are equal to your power characteristic. Magic points equal to 1/5 of power. Roll 3d6 multiplied by 5 for your starting luck score. And then your hit points are your size plus your constitution divided by 10 rounded down. So there is a utilization for luck, but
Yeah,
I
there's a quick
forgot to
reference
expand
for
on it in my notes.
Out of this, but it just didn't say much about it.
And of course, it's not a skill, so it's sort of like an attribute. It's a derived attribute.
I
I
kind of
just
get
didn't
the
know
impression
where
from
it
the paragraph that I saw
Yeah.
that okay, this thing just happened to you. We really don't have a way for you to make a saving throw like other
Yeah.
games. So let's try your luck.
Yeah.
If the player really starts pleading hard, oh, but I could do this, I could do that, I can dodge this, I can jump this, I got this thing, I can save my own butt. Yeah, okay, make a luck.
My thought was
That's
if
the
you
impression
try
I
to
got.
roll below and you've got this 99 sitting here and it would take 20 to get below, can I use 20 of the luck points to bring it down below. And that's what I would be interested in. So if any of you play the game and you're watching this, go ahead and give us something in the comments, because even though it's been played some time back, I've never played it, but now I'm interested. I started reading it, and I love role playing.
Well, Quinn plays this.
Does he?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was
Quinn here instead of Gwitty.
We ran into Quinn yesterday, and we're like, "Hey, can you come?" And he's like, "No, I can't." I was like, "Oh, well, get online." And you know what? I don't think Quinn's out there.
Not today. He stays busy like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But again, I apologize.
We still love you, Quinn.
I do know that you can run out of luck, and if you're out of luck, you're out of life.
Yes.
So it's one of those other stats that can potentially be depleted.
Make or break the game.
That can end up being the end for your character.
So I'm seeing that there's 3 different ways for you to die. You
We
could
haven't
run out
even-
of health, you could run out of sanity, or you could run out of luck.
Yeah. And they're really actually not that hard to lose any of those.
At the same time.
Yeah. So one of the other things you can do that can invite destruction upon yourself.
If there weren't enough already.
Oh, yes. So Mythos magic in Call of Cthulhu refers to the arcane rituals, spells, and the forbidden knowledge drawn from the cosmic entities of the Cthulhu Mythos. So
you go crazy just for trying to read the wrong book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unlike traditional fantasy magic, which is often a tool for empowerment, Mythos magic is dangerous, corrupting, and often beyond human comprehension. It comes at great cost, with risks both to physical and mental health. Hey, we talked about that a little bit ago. The more an investigator delves into Mythos magic, and then here's the thing. You don't even have to use it. Just the more you understand it, the less safe you are because of it. So the closer they get to madness and destruction.
So I have
it's
a
like
copy of
trying
the
to learn
Necronomicon.
French, you know.
The
male
more
or
you
female, so.
the more you learn about French, the more you have to understand that you eat snails, and then you just kind of.
No, that's not.
I have a copy of the Necronomicon over there. We could delve into some of that forbidden knowledge.
Yeah, I'd rather what we did is get a bunch of candles and light them, and then play the tape recording of someone reading it in Latin.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at midnight. It's gotta be.
Basement.
Yeah, we gotta be.
It's in the basement.
Man, no one's done that in like 10 years. 10 years tonight.
What's the moon doing? Yeah, it's fine. It's
Oh
fine.
yeah.
That's good.
Oh, missed it. Should have been last night. What was it?
Couple 3 nights
Couple
ago, we
nights
had the
ago,
blood
yeah.
moon.
Yeah.
Perfect.
With the moon at apogee, it was great.
You have no idea what I did.
Mythos magic originates from ancient incomprehensible beings, right? So here we, for anybody who's played D&D, this is going to be very much, again, your sorcerer. Now, what's interesting about the sorcerer is that they have direct contact, typically, with their patron.
That's warlock.
Oh, sorry, yes, warlock. My bad. There's too many magics. In this, you would invoke power in that entity's name, and not necessarily ever really have any sort of direct interaction. Whether or not you could
petitioning.
Exactly. So other gods and entities that exist beyond the normal understanding of reality. So the spells tap into forces that are antithetical to human existence. So I mean, in that way, you're just like, it's
You're
like
a tool, or a component.
oh, great flamethrower provided to me.
Or you're looked at as a snack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to
Everything
your fish example.
Yeah.
Well,
Am I gonna
again,
eat the fish or am I gonna send it back?
so the other one is they did this in South Park. They had the seamen
Yeah.
or sea monkeys,
Sea,
whatever. it was.
sea people.
Sea monkeys.
Yeah,
Sea men plus sea monkeys equals sea people.
right.
Yeah.
Well, or sea society,
Yeah, sea society.
and then they ended up nuking each other.
Yeah.
because they worship Tweak and Cartman. But
Worked on Futurama too,
yeah.
with him floating through space.
So the spells are not learned easily and typically found in ancient tomes, like the Necronomicon.
It's right over there.
They're deciphered from occult rituals or taught by dangerous cults and alien beings. Now, here when they say alien, they don't mean like Martians. They mean
Aliens.
yes. They're talking about outside of this reality.
Right, because yes, that is a distinction.
The
Because we
chaos
have
realm.
our reality of Martians and Venusians, but then there's other extra dimensional creatures as well.
Right,
But
which
they're
are,
all aliens.
and in the vernacular, they're aliens. So it's important to understand.
How's it go?
Um, Players do not start with access to Mythos magic unless the keeper specifically allows it, and learning these spells usually requires forbidden books, like ancient grimoires, again, the Necronomicon, Der Vermis Mysterious, or the Book of Ebion, something. Setting these books causes sanity loss. Right here, just straight up.
Straight up. How many of these do you have? You got how many grimoires?
It's like this. It's like this. Call of Cthulhu by You're like, oh, all I did was read the credits, the opening dedication page. Yeah, lost some sanity. But we've got sanity loss. There's also characters will have magic points, their ability to potentially do this as a derived skill, and it's tied to your character's power stat. And then, of course, physical harm. So these, again, the costs of magic. Some spells require blood, physical sacrifice, or even aging the caster.
You only need a little bit of blood, though. Safety tip, kids. A little bit of blood.
And then
no, this time we spill it all. He's only half turner.
Yeah.
That's right.
Types of magic here. We got summoning spells, contacts, which allows communication with alien beings, binding spells. So once you summon an entity, it has to be bound.
Yes.
You got
Otherwise, they get out of your chalk circle.
protection and banishing, transformation and alteration, and those reshape the physical world. And then, of course, our favorite, necromancy and mind manipulation.
Necromancy is the the old world term for recycle reuse?
Yeah. So if you were not composting, you were probably a necromancer.
See, I thought those were vampires. Necromancers?
A little bit.
No.
And then, of course, the magic draws directly from the core thematic elements. So we're dealing, again, corruption and despair, the unknowable forces that want to destroy everything, and then insanity and imminent danger.
Because a lot of that, it's the negative material energy that comes right from their home dimension. So that's why you have to channel, you have to open the portals, and you draw that negative energy through to do whatever you're trying to do.
And however its description there, it's all considered to be antithetical to human existence.
Yes.
So, you can handle a AA battery. You can touch both ends of it and you're fine. You go over and you ground out a transformer and it's going to kill you. And then so, the type of power, how much the power, whatever it is, right?
What phase?
Yeah.
It's not the voltage, it's the amp.
Yeah, AC versus DC.
Yeah.
Or AC and DC coming back in black.
Yeah.
So again, but all of it is going to have a cost if you try to access it, and even as you try to understand it. So as an investigator tracking down this cult or secret society that's dealing with this stuff, as you begin to understand what they're up to, you start to see the rituals, the aftermath, the destruction. Not even engaging with this sort of stuff yourself, but being on the periphery of it will have its own detrimental effects.
That's what I was gonna mention is you've got a group or your party as it was, but you have a group of investigators now. If he does something, it's going to affect the rest of the group. If
I ain't doing nothing.
You just open up a portal. That kind of affects the rest of us.
I'm minding my own business.
Opening up my own portals.
Right.
Wouldn't affect nobody.
And this is kind of one of those things from the keeper's perspective you could have. So if Gwydion was playing the psychic, and I'm playing the scientist, and then Troy's over there opening up portals, that could affect us differently. You're more open to the idea of, and where now I see this thing and it's impossible, according to my reasoning.
Yeah, and according to my research and experience from everything I've read and the people I've talked to, well, it's perfectly feasible. I've just never seen it, but now I've seen it. Okay,
right.
so
you may have
connect.
Yeah, you may have less effect against your perception of reality than what I would.
Yep.
And then Troy over there, of course, has to pay the cost for doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
I told you, I'm sitting here minding my own business. We got an interesting point here from somebody that's on the chat from John.
Thanks for joining us today.
He says there's an interesting implication with magic. There's a magic item called Sorcerer's Bane. It does 1d4 hit points and mana points damage. But once you've run out of mana points, it starts dealing double damage to your health.
I want to point out there that is Dr. Gwydion Thanks for joining us today, Gwydion. That is his YouTube channel.
Who?
Gwydion?
The one you're reading there,
Yeah.
John Healer. That's Gwydion, or not Gwydion.
Okay.
You're right there.
He's right here.
Shush. Pay attention to the words that are coming out of my existential dread. That is Quinn. So thanks for being
Quinn.
here today,
That's
Quinn.
Quinn?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so again,
So
Sorcerer's
just because
Bane,
you
Troy.
summon it doesn't
We
mean you
miss
can
you
control it.
here.
Yeah.
He
So-
says, "Yeah,
No.
that's me, Quinn. I didn't get on my other account."
It's all good. So-
Because there's no account. Well, just because you summon it doesn't mean you can control it, which is very true.
Yeah, you have to
Right,
make sure you
well,
use the right color of chalk when you do your summoning circles.
And
But-
he also
but what it-
expresses when you're using it, it is sucking points from you.
It's sucking life out of you.
it's
So
sucking
very-
life
it's
out of you.
necromantic.
Right. Even if you have a separate sacrifice as a trigger, you might consider it a spell component. You still have to do the
Of your
channeling.
life,
yeah.
yeah.
So again,
So, if we say anything else that's wrong, please let us know.
so he's gonna have to go and correct the entire show.
Absolutely.
We'll wait. Show up.
The Troy, go back to the Mage's Bane that Gwen was
Oh.
telling us about.
Yeah. It's an interesting implication with magic for hit points. There's a magic item called Sorcerer's Bane.
All right.
1 die 4 hit points and then MP damage, I assume is mana points.
Yeah.
But once you run out of mana, it starts dealing
points.
double damage to your health.
Mhm.
You can be dead real quick with this thing.
They
Yeah.
actually call it magic.
And just because you summon it doesn't mean you can control it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got two different points there. So the Sorcerer's Bane, okay, great. I've got this this extra bit of power. Again, the double-edged sword of double health your damage.
Where did you find it? Do you believe in magic? There's some implications here on just coming up with it and then finding it and then understanding it. Did it come with its own little instruction booklet? Is it out of something that you found or in
It was
its home?
there was a little coupon slip in the back of the Necronomicon. I ordered it.
All I know is that we should turn it over in a box to top men.
Okay. Wow.
Top end.
Top men. And yeah, as we
There's
mentioned, the
depth.
different types of magic. That's not something we tend to see too much of in a lot of other fantasy where we deal with summoning
Mhm.
things. You're assumed to have some sort of control, not necessarily where whatever you summon obeys you right off, but yeah, just because you can have something come over here doesn't mean that it's going to listen to you at that point.
There's something else I was reading. That there's also curses, of course, like
Yep.
you were talking about, and effects. Something I do in D&D is I use phobias as curses, and they do wear off in some amount of time, or you can get the effects to lessen as time goes by with successful saving throws. But you can also do that here, where if you've got curses and you're not exactly knowing what to do with a curse, look at the phobias page. Use a phobia as a curse and work at it from there as a keeper. By the way, Lovecraft himself, pronounces Cthulhu different, right?
No, what have you?
Cthulhu, KHLUL-HLOO.
So what's wrong?
Well, I think that's from Cthulhu's
Cthulhu.
first marriage. He changed his
Cthulhu.
name after it.
I told you about marriage, didn't I?
That's
I mean,
why,
we experienced that.
How
before.
sanity point lost?
The
What?
sanity
Yeah.
And credit, yeah.
Several other
Yeah, your credit rating.
Yeah.
credit rating.
uh,
But I thought that was wild because I'm wondering how long it took before Cthulhu was changed over to Cthulhu, and was
the first time he had an interview with somebody from the media.
more than likely.
or from America, because we tend to do that to foreign names.
We do.
Your name is Schmidt. That's too. No, Smith. now.
Smith from now on.
Yeah, easier. So to Quinn's point here, as an example spell from the Mythos, this one just sounds like something I wouldn't want to touch in the first place, but it's call forth the deep ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we
Let's
go.
do that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
They
calling
teach you
it
how to swim, right?
Is that, wait a minute, is that level 1?
probably. A summoning spell used to bring the deep ones to the caster. However, once summoned, controlling these entities is nearly impossible, and they often act according to their own motives.
Okay, so I've heard of this, but I've heard it by a different name. It's summon ex-wives.
Glad I don't have one.
You know, they come.
I like
and,
the one I got.
I thought it was lawyer's retainer.
Yeah.
Those I have.
So we talked a little bit about your investigator, a little bit about some of the magic and things that's going to cause them problems.
Yeah. And quite a lot about what we don't know.
Well, here's a little bit more about what we don't know. So this is I'm gonna change your unknown well, at least into a known unknown.
Let me go ahead and get my character sheet up so I can mark
Yeah.
down the experience points.
Quinn is pointing out, and tomato. I'm just going to summarize here. Tomato. The pronunciations were all wrong because we lack the Eldritch tongue required.
Hey, mine's
Nice.
a little shorter than 6 feet.
Nice.
It's not quite long enough.
Just because it isn't bifurcated.
Bifurcaxian? I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll die in my sleep tonight because I'm pronouncing this so wrong.
Be careful because you might accidentally summon something.
It requires the sound of a knife gliding on a dowel.
Interesting.
I like that.
That's interesting. I can't do that. Can you do that?
I think that was in Fedoshin Bujitsu, Hut and Ryu.
So is it a metal dowel or a wooden dowel?
So,
Are there different dialects?
as far as you know.
Yeah.
Pyrexian
Yeah.
requires a sound like a knife gliding on a wooden dowel.
Yeah.
on a dowel. Kind of like Klingonese can't be spoken unless you spit.
Yeah. So here we go. The Elder Gods in the Lovecraftian mythos are a mysterious and loosely defined group of cosmic entities, often contrasted with the malevolent Great Old Ones. So there's two
I love the old
two
ones.
spheres. Well, there's the Great Old Ones and the Elder Gods. A general overview here. I got some of the characteristics of the Elder Gods. Unlike the Great Old Ones and the Outer Gods, who are typically malevolent, chaotic, or indifferent, the Elder Gods are often depicted as more benevolent, or at the very least neutral.
I choose them.
Some interpretations present the Elder Gods as protectors or guardians of the universe, often standing against the destructive influence of the Great Old Ones. And so the distinction between Elder God and Outer God is debated among scholars of the mythos. Some believe the Elder Gods to be separate entities, while others see them as another aspect of the cosmic entities that include the Great Old Ones.
So if you know the unknowable to the point where you can have political debates about it,
yeah.
Could you just imagine just like the frayed nerves of Sanity just talking
Well,
about
this is why opium dens were right outside the gentleman's club. You said
Right outside Washington.
well,
I can't believe you would vote for the Great Old Ones. You're trying to
well, it gets to the point there, Mr. Producer, that they had to rename the opium dens to copium dens, so they could cope with reality.
Sea Star versus the Forces of Evil cartoons or description. Greater understanding.
Let's see. Try to get to some of their.
Well, greater understanding.
Okay, so some of these names are interesting. We got Nodens, Hypnos, Bast. And Bast, you guys may recognize, cat-headed goddess derived from Egyptian mythology.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got some crossover on some of these things.
That's the one. She knocks everything off the table.
And if the Earth was flat, God help us all.
Yeah.
Well, if it was flat, there'd be nothing left on it.
Yeah. So Ulthar, Clathind.
No, that's Kool-Aid.
Oh, okay.
Wait. You got it right.
So, but we just got a bunch of stuff, a lot of different entities, and it's important to note that the classification of Elder Gods was largely introduced by August Derleth, who attempted to introduce a more dualistic structure into Lovecraft's mythos. So it's the original structure versus sort of its evolution as it's been updated or worked with by other authors has changed a little bit over time. We get here. So some of those updates, the trial of Cthulhu. So we had Call of Cthulhu was a Lovecraft, and then August here has the trial of Cthulhu, and where he introduces the Elder Gods as protectors and enemies of the Great Old Ones.
That's where you get parole, right?
Potentially. But here's so you'll notice that I didn't mention Cthulhu yet because he's here on the list of major great old ones.
Yeah.
Not one of the minor ones. He's one of the major ones.
Oh yeah, I mean the game's got his name.
So we'll talk about a gigantic humanoid with an octopus-like head, dragon-like wings, and tentacles on its face. His role is one of the most famous entities in the mythos. Cthulhu lies dormant beneath the Pacific Ocean in the sunken city of Ryleth. His dreams influence sensitive humans and drive them mad.
And that's where they found him. He was asleep at the bottom of the ocean.
Yep. And his first appearance in the mythos, Call of Cthulhu, 1928. We also
Godzilla said.
Yeah.
Godzilla said, "I'm going that way."
I'm out.
Some of these names again have way too many consonants. But I'll try here. So we got Hoster, Nearlathrotep, Yog-Sothoth, Shub. Let's see, I'm just going to skip that one. It's a little bit. I think the FCC would find me for saying that one on air. But
if you play Pathfinder, honestly, if you play Pathfinder and you pick up the 6-book Carrion Crown series, you'll come across some of this.
Yeah, and we saw
some of these deities and some of the old ones and so on like that are part of that game, and it's actually a really horror-driven game. Book 2 is disgusting.
Yep.
So
well, then we have Dagon, which we've seen in other myths. A gigantic humanoid sea creature resembling a monstrous fish or amphibian.
Yep, he's in the Carrion Crown.
Dagon is worshipped by the Deep Ones there, an amphibious race that lives underwater and makes deals with humans.
Yeah.
So Quinn says, "Yeah, don't read that one. He knows who you're talking about."
Yeah. I'm like,
It also says the greater old ones are only mildly benevolent to their servant races, like Dagon to the Deep Ones, Cthulhu to his star spawn, and Yig to his serpent people.
Yeah. So
and the one you shouldn't say can also be called the Goat of the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
So here, in contrast to the elder gods, the old ones, often malevolent cosmic entities, typically reside in a dormant state, either imprisoned or in hibernation, waiting for the right conditions to return to power. And then, unlike the outer gods who exist beyond time and space and are even more powerful, the great old ones have a physical form, albeit one that defies human comprehension.
Wow.
So, but I've got 16 here in my notes. I know they also made appearances in some of the earlier printings of was it not Legends Lore? It was
Deities and Demigods.
Deities and Demigods. Yeah.
Yep.
Demigods,
that's 1980 TSR.
Again, nodding to the influence of Lovecraft's work in the horror.
Yeah, it was in the first 2 printings, and then they changed it to take them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Key themes for the Great Old Ones are the cosmic indifference. Do not necessarily care about humanity, but their existence and eventual awakening often spell disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Many Great Old Ones have human followers or cults that seek to awaken them or gain power through them. And this is the other good one here that I think everyone enjoys: insanity and madness.
Mm-hmm.
Contact with or even knowledge of can lead to insanity, reflecting the core themes of cosmic horror.
Don't go to the park. Don't look at the park.
Oh yeah, there is no dog park.
Dogs are not allowed in the dog park.
Do not approach the dog park. The fence is electrified.
The call is coming from inside your home.
Yeah.
All hail the glow cloud.
Yeah,
So, you can go to outside sources for information, especially if you're doing home brews and so on. The Gateway Bestiary, which was originally 1980 by again Chaosium. And again, with the Deep Ones, the Mygo race, which was an actual alien race.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Grups in here, the Realms of Cthulhu, Eldritch Skies, so much in the RPG of Lovecraftian role-playing games. So there's 14 actual Lovecraftian games, plus the ones that they're doing now since 2021, I think, is when this was.
And then
then 10 more subs.
Well, let's not forget anything with the name Arkham on it.
Yeah.
Is pulled right out of there, which is, I think, part of why we see such interesting villains in the Batman comics. Yeah. Getting into the actual gameplay, now that we understand a little bit about our characters, the theme, we have some known unknowns that are going to affect our sanity.
Just real quick, Quinn says he loves the. Is that my go or me go?
My go.
No, it's my go.
No, it's my go. The Mygos was a cool race to work with, and carrying crown, and extremely horrific, and really destroyed some sanity points on the characters, because I dealt with sanity points in the 4th book.
Yeah.
With carrying crown. So anyway, yeah.
As we get into the gameplay aspects, as we mentioned before, combat is fast and brutal. Investigators are often
one-sided.
Well, yeah, they're often physically outmatched by the horrors that they face.
Yes.
Right. So, I don't care if you're Ellen Ripley and you strap a flamethrower to your machine gun. They don't care.
No.
Troy's Tommy gun ineffective.
Yeah.
So, as we deal with initiative, action economy, and the turn structure, initiative is based on dexterity, which is pretty similar to a lot of other game systems. Players and NPCs act in a descending order of dex scores. Each round, characters can perform a movement, an action, so this would be like a standard action, such as an attack or cast a spell, and defend if necessary. Storytelling is heavily narrative focused. This is to your point, Gwydion, and we've seen this. It's mentioned all throughout the books as far as the intended way to play is more of the investigative, more of the narrative, a lot of interaction with NPCs or across the table, and ideally not being eaten alive by the lizard people.
So Quinn makes a comment, says we should put him in the brain jar. I think.
No, this is. Yeah, wait, hold on.
He's already in the brain jar. There's no room for anybody else. There's no room for anybody else. The Man with Two Brains.
Yes.
Great movie with Steve Martin.
Yep.
I love that. I'm gonna use my twist top method of removing the brain.
Yeah. So I'm going to pause here a little bit on the storytelling aspect. Troy, we've seen certain things like this before in some of our history where I've done World of Darkness, but you played a lot in Ravenloft.
Not a lot. I do a lot of running in Ravenloft.
Same thing.
Running.
Yeah.
Wow.
Away from.
Yeah. But what I'm getting to, and we've alluded to before talking about Halloween time and stuff, since it's a spooky season. Well, developing a sense of dread and building that anticipation is a different style of storytelling than kicking open the door and fighting the orcs. So tell me a little bit about how you would go about, how do you set those scenes or build that anticipation?
One of the things that a lot of DMs don't do, some do here and there, we try to do when we do our event games, is play music in the room. And you can actually get some classical pieces that will, just hearing it, get that whole sense of dread already built up in the room just by listening to it, and then your players will go, what's going on?
Well, any sort of thematic music, because we're in the 1920s.
It's a little too cliche, but it works on players.
It works. I mean, music helps. You can get a fog machine you put on top of your bookcase. I mean, there's a number of things. Lower lighting, maybe candles on the one side. There's a lot of things you can do to set the atmosphere that does seem cliche, but with games like Cthulhu and even in some of the nights in Ravenloft, a lot of the times when I play in Planescape, I'll do music. I have sound effects and stuff because it's so hard to describe what is a giant city the size of New York, all staffed and living mechanical contrivances, walking wash machines with spears and axes. Just trying to describe it so that you understand the vision that I'm trying to put. Well, I could play a sound effect tape and you understand better what I'm trying to describe. So sound effects can help, music can help, spooky lighting can help, maybe a tablecloth that's not like have balloons on it for a kid's party. You can get a black tablecloth. There are just different things that help set the night that this is going to be a different kind of game.
We actually had a power outage one winter. during a long D&D session, I told everybody hang tight. I had little flashlights everywhere and got that for the people who were uncomfortable, and then got camp lights and put 2 camp lights up on tripods, tall tripods on the table. And we played by that and could see everything, but it set a really creepy mood and really worked. And I refer back to the Carrying Crown and Pathfinder because in each one of the books, it has recommended music. You could actually go through that entire series, pull the recommended music from that entire series, and use it in Call of Cthulhu.
So Quinn here says that there's a lot of good music for Cthulhu on YouTube. Some adventures have custom soundtracks. And then Street Racer says he likes bardcore.
Hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, that's a particular genre that's meant for like tavern music.
It's like modern songs that's covered on like lutes and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
That way they
definitely would help. And you don't have to have it like blaring like a rock and roll concert.
Oh no, you want it in the background.
In the background, and it really helps. The ones I do on Planescape, I try to let that music play for like the first half hour while people are coming in, sitting down, getting here. Hey man, haven't seen you in a couple months. What have you been up to? And that music's playing in the background. Usually, in about 5 to 10 minutes, somebody go, "What the hell is this playing?" Destroy. And then after a little while, you just find them. It slowly sinks into their mind, and it puts them into the character mood and the mindset and the whole setting.
For most of the time, while the music's playing, they don't even really realize it's there until there's like a lull or like a stressful moment, and they're trying to concentrate on what to do in this next part, and they hear the music, and it's just like really gets the anxiety going.
It adds to it. Now, I have found that trying to add sound effects to everything going on in the dungeon, even if you got a board pre-programs or on your laptop, takes up a ton of game time. I've tried it several different ways, but honestly, it just doesn't work. Explaining what happens in a more graphic fashion is a lot better than a sound effect and enhances the play quite a bit more and helps you as a game master hone your skills and it lets them understand a little bit better. Plus, with a game like Call of Cthulhu, that is
that's why I use
important.
props.
That's right, props.
So, to your point, Mr. Gwydion, whenever we would be running through stuff with you, whenever we would come up into a situation, you would always try to do your best to describe all 5 senses.
Well, it's 6, I think, is how you
6
describe
is
it.
how I always describe it. Because that little hairs on the back of your neck that stand up.
Because like you can walk into a room and you can describe what it looks like, but you also need to describe what it smells like, describe what you hear.
How it sounds and feels under your feet.
Yeah, is there like a musty moldiness you can kind of taste and smell it, you know?
Is there a crunch?
Yeah.
And so on, what's in the air? Yeah. Did you just walk through a spider web?
Troy, this is one of the things that you're actually really good with is you have to remember player psychology. This, I think, to Gwydion's point, the descriptions work better because your players are already engaged with you and not your sound effects so much. But building atmosphere with some background music is a great way to keep everyone engaged at the table.
Yeah. You don't want to do it like every game, every room.
Yeah.
Right, and it does change the soundtrack, but it's something general. But one of the things that you do that gets onto the player psychology aspect of things is you use notes, and you use them quite well.
Oh, yeah. I use notes in pretty much all my games. So, as an example, we're sitting here playing, and he's playing a thief that's checking out the chest. He's a fighter that's checking out the shelves over here on the side of the room. I'm going to take out a little post-it note. I'm going to write down a note to his character, the thief, because he's the only one there watching and doing whatever it is you're doing. So I hand it to him, and then he's over here checking out the shelves. I'll write him a note, what he sees on the shelf, what's going on. Instead of broadcasting to the whole table, hey, this is a deal about the chest. Hey, this is a deal about the shelves. Because then all the players now know everything's going on. And what that also does is puts a burden on these 2 players to role play what they just discovered. And it keeps that action on the table because he's over there checking out the chest. The dwarf is going to come over. Hey, buddy, what'd you find? It's locked.
Well,
now.
Well, so
locked, but I don't want to say that.
That would be what we'd see as your standard for like D&D, but switch that into a horror setting now, and I pass you a note that says you get a cold chill.
Absolutely.
And then now, but again, the burden of RP is placed on that player. You know,
you saw a shadow out of the corner of your eye.
It's like, you guys see that, and then Gwydion's character, who did not.
No, because I felt something touch, a cold touch on my shoulder.
Like, I didn't touch it, but it was something over there.
Right.
And you know.
Yeah. So
and
these things can be put down on paper or actually printed out and cut out previous to play. And that puts a lot of work on the keeper, but that's just part of being a DM or GM.
Especially,
and it's easier to cut out and hand out at the time, depending on who is in the particular area at the time.
And the extreme of that would be something just happened that one player saw that I, as the DM, now need to take that player aside and spend a few minutes telling them what happened, or even role playing a quick session that's going to be a character, just a quick minute, because they saw something happened. And so I'll call a time stop on the table. Hey, you and me out in the hall.
Right.
And we go out in the hall or down into the bedroom, and I'll say, hey, this is what you saw, and describe that whole thing to them. I said, we've only got a quick character, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is what you saw. This is what you felt. This is what you heard, or whatever.
Bring your dice.
Those are fun.
Or bring your book.
The last time that we did one of those, we went down the hall and I described everything to him. And the guy, when we came back, I said, now you need to tell them. I said, okay, time is back on. And he did it perfectly as a player. He looked over at the cleric in the group. He says, what's your God look like?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, why? I think I saw him. Why would you see my God? He's like, I don't know.
You were the one laying there with this big gash across
this
your
brilliant flash of light.
Yeah.
And he's much better now. So.
Yeah.
But with a story-based or story-driven
Chicks
game,
love scars.
that being sure that you can have some techniques at your disposal as a keeper, it's going to be important to help you be successful in executing any kind of horror-based or high-story sort of game system.
Now that it's close to Halloween, hit your Dollar Trees, hit the General Dollar, go to Walmart.
Spirit Halloween is popping up near you.
To get props, also at dollar stores, you'll find still, I think they have packs of 5 of these little top spiral notebooks.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
and
it's 5 for $1.
Yeah, 5 for $1 or $1.25 now. And you can scrawl a name on the back of them so everybody has their own notepad, and you can put the notes in there and just close them up, send them to them, and they can send you a response, and it keeps it separate from everyone besides what you put together in the first place.
Quinn's got another great one here. His favorite version of this is from the adventure Viral. Some players will get a picture of empty windows, but those who pass get to see for a brief second a horrifying figure in a gas mask.
Haha.
So that would be one of those, you get a note, you saw this, you get a note, you saw that. And then that adds tremendous role-playing onto the table. Because you're going to say, guys, you see that? And you say,
it's an empty window, Troy. Yeah.
See a dirty window.
Yeah.
Right. And so that creates a tremendous role-playing moment.
Talking is a free action in every game, unless the game master tells you different.
And crying may be a forced action as your sanity becomes.
Crying is always a free action.
It's an option.
It's a free action.
Well, in Call of Cthulhu, it's a buy one get one free action.
So, but particularly from a storytelling standpoint, you gotta empower your players with this system. I think more than most.
Yeah.
To have that ability to role play on information, right?
And that's where skills come in. And when you choose, you have so many points to spend amongst your skills. It becomes important, but this may be the first time you're playing and you choose some, somebody else chooses some, and while you play, you'll find out what really works, what doesn't work, what's kind of useless. But honestly, that's in this particular scenario, because the next time you play, and you'll go, look, I'm going to build a character, but I'm going to like stuff everything into this, like Bo Fury, I'm going to put everything into Vitality.
All my points of charisma.
Well, let me just OP. And then you come into another situation where that doesn't work. So, but that's what I like about this. There is such a multitude of ways that you can build a character. And it's not just where 5e, anything can be a player character. This is humans that have different skill sets from different educations, different backgrounds, different work relate. So it's just like you and me play.
Yeah.
You
I've
know,
done that.
we're different. Yeah, we have, brother.
Don't threaten them that way.
So
See you in the dojo.
just to reiterate, heavily narrative focused. With combat being fast and brutal, narrative is going to be what you're going to want more often than not. And you're going to have an emphasis on investigation, research, and uncovering the truth. GMs will craft stories filled with slow burn tension and eventual encounters.
Yep.
Well, it's different than, kind of like the guillotine, right? You have to sit there and watch every pull. You'd want to describe every labored motion of the old man
sound,
pulling,
smells,
and you
the
need to you need to build this tension slowly, and you see the climax coming, but you have to be there for every step of the way, and this is what they're talking about here, this slow burn sort of tension.
So to that point, in my mind, even with movies, watching a trebuchet fire in the old movies, you have all of these sounds. Until I built one and actually fired it, it did not sound. It just the sound of it. You could just.
It's really visceral.
Until
actually,
you fired it over and over again.
The creaking wood, the strain on the ropes, the chains.
The feel of it, like released in your hands, like
how much it moves when it fires.
The whole thing moving.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of.
And then you go back and you research, and you're like, well, mine's got a small, like 12-foot arm. That one's got a 28-foot throwing arm, and you're like. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Well, no, you take everything that the small one does and amplify it in that scale.
Yeah, it's not linear either. It's crazy.
Anyway. So, if you happen to survive and you're not comatose at the end of your game sessions, again, characters improve through their skills' successful use. Multi-class characters don't exist as we would experience them in other game systems. So this is all
multi-skilled characters.
Exist, and so you might have multiple focuses. Yes. If you have 2 bachelor's degrees, as an example. Yeah. But again, you're not a multi-class character because classing isn't what we experience in this game system. Again, a very skills and narrative focused game.
Well, so to your point, to your personal background, actually, so you have computer science as well as mechanic stuff, which those two combined lets you do high-level tuning.
Right, yeah. So
you still have multi-skills and with a more overarching focus, but there's multiple things that you are proficient at.
Indeed. And then ultimately, as far as gameplay goes, death is common. Sanity loss can lead to permanent insanity or debilitating conditions. It is not uncommon for a campaign to involve several different characters as previous investigators are killed or institutionalized.
As we stated early on, roll up several characters.
So you read that first line pretty quickly. Would you read that first line again, slower?
I like cookies. Oh no, the next one. Death is common.
Death is common.
Something else from the end of the statement. If your character goes permanently insane and he's in an insane asylum and you're required to roll a new character, it could be part of the story to go and talk to the insane guy in the insane asylum.
See, that's what we were talking about earlier, that this person can come into play.
Oh, yeah.
So you say those because what a lot of us do, and who's the gentleman that openly professed to do this at CK?
When characters die, they become an NPC?
No, they become the BBEG. Because he keeps all the stuff on them.
Yeah.
And they become the next BBEG because they gather more stuff than they gather followers.
Yeah. I think he takes personal glee in watching the rest of the party kill that guy's character.
Yeah.
I think rule 1 is don't be a dick. Something like that.
Don't be a DB.
Call of Cthulhu, a very cool lore, lots of really neat writings. 7th edition, so we've got a long-running game.
A lot of history.
And there's what I love about it is the creative license you get from being in a true historical period, but it also allows you then to sort of let your imagination run a little wild with the stories that you tell.
It lets you what run wild?
Your imagination.
Okay.
Some of us are drying out. You got a dehumidifier over there, and I
We
can't.
got SpongeBob over there.
It's
Yeah,
working.
oh, it is working. I'm gonna have to make a Constitution save here in a minute, or I can go worship that one sea god and get some gills or something. But
At least your mouth will be dry.
Yeah.
I'll be dead. Super light as far as materials required to play. Some games, take $3 or $4. This one's nice. If you're a player, you need the one. As a keeper, you might need two.
So the player's book, we said about $45. What's the keeper's book?
55.
55.
And it is a thicker book.
Quick starts free, 90 pages, and it gives you a way to go. But it also mentions you need these. Yeah, that's just to get used to rolling your character.
The quick start guide is really nice because it can let you hit the ground running.
Yes.
But it does, they did design the product so that you're going to want these to expand into it.
You need a keeper separate, and you need investigators plural to make it work.
Right, and what's nice about it though is there's enough lore primer in the book that you can go ahead and get started. They've got the adventure, and then you can get the full campaign books like the Horror on the Orient Express, which is one of their big ones. That's a very cool set.
Quinn, real quick, would you recommend this system to somebody that's never seen it before? If he's still with us.
Yeah.
He's been playing it for quite a while.
Now, here's what I could say in my time, which is pretty, admittedly short with it. It's going to take a game master of some skill who's got the ability to tell a story, which sometimes actually is a little easier than the combat side of things, where we see it in D&D a lot. But you just have to have some forethought to be able to tell the stories and get them to be to have them unfold in a way that's interesting.
And it's going to take player characters that are interested in role playing more than combat. If you get a bunch of guys that if you get 10 and 12-year-olds that have just learned how to play D&D,
yeah,
they're going to want to use these all the time.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to role play, and they won't understand it to that point. If you get seasoned players, they're probably going to want to role play. It's something that you need to ask them, are you okay with this? Plus the genre. Ask them, are you okay with the genre, with the time period?
Well, yeah, because
things that happen.
Because you're going to have a lot of social aspects, but you're typically going to be dealing with murder, the occult,
demons,
racism,
there's a lot of
sexism and political unrest.
Even if you play in a more modern system where we've overcome a lot of those social sticking points, you still have the occult, death, murder, and those others things that can be a little touchy to deal with sometimes. Not everybody wants to have those.
Make sure your players are okay with it. I wouldn't even attempt this with a younger crowd.
No. A good session 0 is really going to set your game up for success on this one.
Definitely have a session 0.
So, as someone who experiences rule number 2 quite often through D&D, Call of Cthulhu, from a DM standpoint, seems like you would need to prepare a little bit more. You would need to know exactly what's going on.
This is going to be less of a linear progression, and you're going to have to prepare more of a web.
Yeah.
Street Racer is suggesting seasoned players.
Yeah.
With a bit of Old Bay and garlic salt.
Old Bay.
Old Bay. Yeah, Gwydion. Yeah, you're seasoned players.
Powder.
Unless they're French, you just a little bit of salt and pepper. That's all they ever.
That's right. So I wore this in respect because this is one of the Lovecraft-inspired movies. Was Evil Dead, and that was last. That was last year. Again, if you go to his site, hplovecraft.com, you're going to get a lot of insights. You're going to see all the Lovecraft movies. You're going to see the independent Lovecraft films. Then you're going to see the inspired movies, because Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, Witch Hunt, some of these other great ones, Lovecraftian movies, because Alien, The Maze, The Thing, those sort of things were, even the original Thing, that was under it. Now, I don't believe The Blob was ever considered Lovecraftian because it was too chemically it was created.
What about
It wasn't from another dimension. It was created and just got away from
beyond
it.
that, anything that causes like existential dread is not necessarily Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot that's touched by that because he has such a huge influence on the horror genre generally.
Yeah.
And then of course the creation of cosmic horror specifically.
And then some of the things they took directly from his writings into movies, Friday the Reanimator,
Oh yes.
The Crimson Cult, The Curse, Dagon itself, Die Monster Die. If you've never seen that, that's 1965, which to me, Die Monster Die should have been like, I don't know, 40, you know.
Is the Beast of Tucson in there?
On Palace, Working, Fear, Necronomicon, Reanimator, let's see, Resurrected.
What about a guy turned to a zombie because he drove his car too close to a hydrogen bomb test?
Pickman's Model, Whisper in the Darkness.
But what's funny was when he was walking down the road, he still was carrying his briefcase.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not seeing that. So no, I guess because it's basically
radiation.
Yeah,
but I can
more
see-
science fiction.
Yes,
I
sci-fi.
bet all these horror monster movies that we're talking about, the people that wrote, directed, produced those, have read multiple.
They're all familiar with it for sure.
He's definitely had an influence over the years.
It's like, you know, if I wanted to become a horror writer now, you would read, you know, among your reading would be Stephen King and so on and so forth. Lovecraft would have to be on the top of your list.
Absolutely.
His work is too influential. He's got.
And if you haven't read some of his stuff, dude, because it will change the way you gameplay.
Well, and the storytelling style is really unique as well, and so that's a great benefit to reading his work. But let's get your final thoughts over there, Troy.
From Quinn, he's saying that a new player may have difficulty with the character creation in the system.
Right.
So there may need to be some more hand-holding, or at least reading through the system completely.
Or using that online PDF that automatically
find some tools and utilize them, kind of thing.
On the calculation.
I think with a lot of the game systems we're seeing out there, its price point is very comparable to a lot of the other systems. I think since it's in the 7th generation, like a lot of things that make it to multiple generations, like D&D, we have things that we like and things that we.
Well, it's had a lot of refinement.
Yes.
As a game system.
Again, we'd have to read through it in a lot more detail than what we've done in just doing this a little bit. But I think I know when I played it years ago, it was probably about the 2nd or 3rd generation of the game.
Yeah.
I still have a character who's running in fear down the street because he was the only one that lived, and I was very terrified of the monster that I shot with my Tommy gun.
He just felt like running.
He did feel like running, but he's the only one that survived the encounter. So I remember it being it was very dark, and as a young player, I wasn't prepared for as dark and as cruel as it could be. So that would be the one big thing that I would make sure that when you're doing your session 0, that you explain to your new players just how dark and cruel it can and will be to your young player.
And we'll see that too with World of Darkness. These horror systems tend to be very unforgiving.
But yeah, there are people that like them though, that they play vampire all the time.
Well, again, as an investigator, story driven,
yes,
and that's where this excels. What are your final thoughts here, Goodian?
If you play Curse of Strahd, get Call of Cthulhu and play it. If you enjoy that and your players enjoy it, they're going to enjoy this. If you've never read some of his works, read some of his works. I want us to play this game, learn a little better, and play it maybe with Quinn being our keeper, and video it and let you guys see how poorly we do and how many times we die. So
there you go. How about that, Quinn? You run us through a game. And we'll record it. We'll put it out for everybody to see and laugh at us.
Yeah, point and laugh.
I'll buy pizza.
As long as you're live. You can point at us, laugh at us.
We'll buy the pizza.
Laugh with us. Yeah.
So I would have, my final thought on this would be that no matter what game system you prefer the best, all of this material is still material that you can use. It just might take a little bit of math and crossover stuff. So with Call of Cthulhu, I could also recommend some GURPS stuff, because they have different timelines and different things that you can do if you're wanting to take Call of Cthulhu into more of a traditional D&D type game.
There's actually a GURPS Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So
So
we can go
or
with that.
vampire. Like it's all you.
Yeah.
You can take the material that you like, and you can still put it to the game system that
You
you
bet.
want.
for me, I would definitely recommend this for someone who prefers a thoughtful and more role play heavy experience at the table. Again, if you want something that's maybe you're fighting against Germany's expansion and racing to capture artifacts, the pulp version of the Call of Cthulhu system may be more your style. But whichever flavor you go for,
Well, a
this
lot of
is
that was real history.
Yeah.
again the pulp version is got more combat heavy.
Oh, true,
Yeah.
right.
So again, whichever your flavor, you're gonna find a rich storytelling experience with elements that are unique outside of any other game system. And again, to Troy's point, something that's highly refined over 7 editions. There's not a whole lot of excess. There's not a whole lot of stumbling blocks. The system has got a lot of its fat cut, and so when it does come time to pick up the dice, it's all very easy to understand.
They explain the aspects well. You have lists to choose from. You have tables to work with and use. They give you outlines on each aspect, even outlines on combat and damage and so on like that. So it's done incredibly well.
So Quinn has another movie
Oh yeah,
recommendation to watch. Color Out of Space
Yes.
with Nicolas Cage. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with it.
Color Out of Space is actually a true Lovecraft movie.
Is it
nice.
It's straight from his writing. So yeah, Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space?
Yeah.
So I think Quinn has won the trivia questions today.
Well, it's always appreciate your input, Quinn, and particularly your
Yeah.
expertise in the
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu system.
Yeah.
This is the whole point of the Through the Multiverse series we're doing this year. Show off some systems that maybe you've never seen before, and give you enough information to go and find out more on your own. So again, published by Chaosium Incorporated, chaosiuminc.com. They've got several other systems that they do. They're publishing, so they've got novels and things where you can expand.
It just sounds like a bad guy organization taking on Batman.
That's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated.
Yeah. So, whether it's this system or Cyberpunk or Star Trek or any of the stuff that we've covered this year, we hope that you'll take some time to look deeper into it. This one in particular, we wanted to feature because it is an excellent, well-refined, and engaging storytelling experience.
Support your local gaming store. Buy local, play local, find local friends, and
Make them go
TTRPG. Everything's great online. Video games are fine, and BTT is great, but there's nothing like direct interaction and a.
That's why we all get together to watch the
Yeah.
football game. We could watch it
Yeah.
just as easily at our own house,
Yeah,
but it's more fun when we come together and get to hang out over it.
and with a potluck.
Oh
So,
yeah.
bring food.
Unless you run out of luck and you die.
Yeah. Then you just have pot.
And
That's not entirely bad either.
And without food, I go insane and
Yeah.
die.
Cake or death.
So Quinn says that he's down with running us in a game.
Awesome.
Sweet.
So
So we just
We'll
got to figure
find
out
time.
when.
we'll check
Find
that out.
time.
So before we head out, Troy, tell everyone where they can find us and more information.
You can find more of this idiot nonsense on iwannabeagm.com, Facebook, Discord, and here at YouTube.
Yep, I want to thank you for watching this video today. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Gwydion, we have a goal for today's video.
We would love to get 50 likes. So if you think we're worthy, give us a thumbs up on there. We'd appreciate it. While you're looking over our YouTube library, take a moment to check out some of our other videos. We've done these videos. We have a theme for each year. Take a look at some of those. Take a look at some of them that are very popular. Take a look at some of the less popular ones. You might find something you like. And you might find something that does what we really want to do, and that's help your gameplay. So, not sure if they'll find one helpful or not, but
They're
look at them
all
all.
helpful.
Look
They're
at them
all-
all. Look at put a number on every
They're
one.
all helpful.
Yeah,
For sure.
and we are here as a group, as a team. Even Mr. Producer, he's got a lot to add, off screen and on screen. We're here to help you and help your game. We're here to help you as a player. We're here to help you as a player turn into a GM. I want to be a GM. That's what it's all about. We're here to help you as a GM. do a more well-rounded job.
Helping players move behind the screen. And on Thursdays, 7 o'clock Central Time, you can find one or more of us there. We like to help people out with the game prep for their weekend game. So you can hit us up for any problems or questions, or just tell us about your game and how great it is.
By there, Troy means our growing Discord community. While we have plenty to input, there's a growing community of game masters where we all share information. We've recognized that while my advice or Gwydion's advice may not resonate with your game, Troy's advice or somebody else on the Discord may have the secret for your play style, the table, the particular game that you're
on. And we're learning from you all the time. So we appreciate you.
There's been a couple of great ideas on there. Like, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, this has been Through the Multiverse, Call of Cthulhu. I'm Jester Borris.
I'm Troy, the Planescape Guy. And this is...
Gwydion the Long-Winded.
With the disembodied voice of Mr. Producer over there. We will see you next time.
Okay, lady, love you. Bye-bye.
Mom.